G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. And for the first time in a long time, I'm in a position to make a bit of a movie about SunFoils. In the beginning, there was the Mark I 5-watt omnidirectional streamlined array, which caused the 1800cc Subaru 1983 four-wheel drive touring wagon to save about 1.5 litres per week. The 20-watt Mark II went on top of a Subaru Brumby, for which this was the spare parts pile. But when the Brumby got water in its oil or oil in its water, it was traded in. Not before it established a 4.2 litre per week fuel saving by having a 20-watt panel on a 1.8 litre four-wheel drive Subaru Brumby. The third prototype, 30-watt gallium arsenide panel on top of the old horrible paint job on the Subaru, saves 5.33 litres a week, which means that in the 4.5 years that the Mark III has been on this vehicle, it's saved a total of 1,275 litres of 95 octane petrol, and that works out to around the $1,800 worth of money, assuming the average price of petrol, which has fluctuated greatly over the previous 4.5 years, and it saves, or has saved, 3 tonnes of atmospheric carbon from emerging out of the tailpipe. The ancient Subaru had its fuel burn run from 8 kilometres per litre per month, cruising at 100 kilometres an hour. Put the solar panel on it with the 30-watt panel, 10.66 kilometres per litre per month, cruising at 100 kilometres per hour. So the vehicle itself became 33.25% more fuel efficient. That was because the battery used to be resting permanently 30% flat, because the alternator was permanently at least 30% output, permanently dragging on the crankshaft, acting as an electromagnetic drag brake via a step-up torque multiplying drive belt. It means that for the last 4.5 years, I've been driving 1 kilometre on the petrol saved by the solar panel for every 4 kilometres that I drive. 3 kilometres on the petrol that I buy to run the engine and the gearbox, 1 kilometre on the petrol that the solar panel has saved me from burning to feed the battery. Therefore, it's a 25% piston solar hybrid. Every time you drive 4 kilometres, 1 kilometre is on fuel saved by the solar panel. It isn't magic, it isn't voodoo, it's just solar panel feeding a charge controller, feeding via a fuse straight into the battery, not via the ignition switch. On a vehicle with a 1.8 litre engine, a gross vehicle mass of 1.57 tonnes, and a tare weight or an empty weight of 1,100 kilograms, all being pulled around by a relatively small, relatively old-fashioned engine. However, all things come to an end, even the good ones. And this thing's got no more twistiness in its rear torsion bars. The diff's been riding on the bump stops for almost a year. Needs a new rear constant velocity joint on the left-hand side. Needs new brake pads. It probably needs new brake discs. Probably needs about $3,000 spent on new paintwork, and it could do with some upholstery repairs as well. And the problem is that Subaru has not been supporting anything older than 1990 for the last 5 years. So this thing turned into a pumpkin at midnight on the 27th of April. It's no longer road registered, but I suppose if somebody wants to buy an electric solar thermal ramjet augmented Subaru four-wheel drive as a collector's item, it's 32 years old, 33 years old. It's almost getting into your vintage veteran collectible old car market. So talk to me about that. But while I'm waiting for the replacement to have its gearbox expensively rebuilt and reconditioned, I'm borrowing my son's 2.5 litre diesel turbocharged intercooled four-wheel drive four-door Rodeo, which has much taller wheels, as well as fifth gear overdrive versus the old 4, a tare weight of something around 1.85 tonnes and a gross vehicle mass of nearly 2.9 tonnes. Whereas for a long time I had my son trained to write down his fuel consumption and his distance travelled. So he's gone from 8.44 kilometres to the litre, 7.9, 6.79, 8.07, 7.96, 7.86, 7.81, 8.717, 7.9. I think at some stage there he decided his battery was old and sick and dying, and he replaced his battery. And that brought things back up to 9.05, 8.93 kilometres to the litre. And that's with the 30-watt gallium arsenide wood frame with horrible paintwork that's falling to pieces and coming off the wood, SunFoil Mark 5. So 9 kilometres to the litre for almost twice the weight. 10.66 kilometres to the litre. Smaller tyres, smaller engine, no fuel injection, no turbocharger, no intercooler, 4 gears, no overdrive. So the interesting part of this is what goes faster, what gives more acceleration. That's what the rev heads want to know, isn't it? And after 2.5 weeks of driving my son's Rodeo, I'm in a position to say something maybe a little bit meaningful. Okay, now if we take a little bit of a bird's eye view, when I'm going to town, I drive down here, I drive down here, I drive down along here, and I come to a stop at what, as you can see, is not actually a T intersection. It's about an 80-degree intersection. And as you can also see, the water runs this way on that side, runs that way on that side. So traffic coming along the highway up here is coming uphill at 100 kilometres an hour, and they've got barely 100 metres of clear view as they get to the crest. And I want to go into town, and I don't want to collect them coming up my tailpipe, so therefore I have an actual, genuine, fair dinkum serious excuse to do a maximum performance acceleration run southward down that hill. I actually go at 90 degrees across the road. I cross the road at that angle, and I get the white line of the lane marker coming up the centre of my bonnet with 2 wheels out almost on the dirt. And I habitually accelerate as hard as I can, probably coming up to within 1,000 RPM of the red line. And it's not until I get to here doing maybe 80 kilometres an hour that I come out onto the main part of the carriageway. So it gives somebody at speed coming up behind me much more room to move, and it means that I know how far it takes along the road, whether I've got a full tank of fuel or whether I've got an almost empty tank of fuel, whether I've got a headwind or a zero wind or a tailwind. I know how long it takes my old Subaru to get up to 100 kilometres an hour, so I no longer present a mobile accident hazard. Right, here on the aerial photograph, you can see the driveway leading to a neighbour's house. I won't name the neighbour, I haven't got their permission. But they have a mailbox right beside their driveway, and the guideposts are 50 metres apart. If we have a look on the scale with dividers, this distance is 530 metres. Okay, so you can see here, it's 530 metres from the turn-off to the neighbour's driveway. There's a guidepost 50 metres further to the southwest. There are guideposts running all the way along 50 metres apart. I am entirely used to travelling at 100 kilometres an hour, either 1, 2 or 3 guideposts out in the old Subaru, depending on whether I've got a full tank of fuel, in which case I'll be doing 100 Ks, 50 metres before the neighbour's mailbox. If I've got half a tank of fuel, 100 metres before. If I've got an almost empty fuel tank and still air, I'll be doing 100 kilometres an hour, 150 metres before the neighbour's mailbox. So when I did the first actual serious run in my son's car, when I'd had the thing for about 3 or 4 days and kind of got used to it, I was absolutely staggered to find that I was 50 metres past the neighbour's mailbox before the thing reached 100 kilometres an hour. It was slower and soggier, even going downhill with its bigger motor and its fuel injection and its turbocharger and its big wheels and its 5 gears. It was accelerating worse than my old Subaru. And then I had a little bit of a look at what was going on with his battery, and I discovered that last time he went camping, he connected his solar panel to the rear battery for the camping fridge, and he didn't reconnect it back to the engine. So I had conducted a test run of my son's Rodeo with a solar panel on the roof, not connected to the engine battery. I mentioned it all to him, proved it with the voltage figures and the readouts. He remembered what he'd forgotten to do, and he reconnected his car's SunFoil to the battery. And behold, after a fortnight of having a solar panel talking to its battery, the turbocharged diesel Rodeo can now reach 100 kilometres an hour, 100 metres before the neighbour's mailbox, exactly the same point on the road, exactly the same distance from a standing start through an 80-degree turn as the 1983 Subaru with a 1.8 litre engine. So all of the efficiency that's been achieved with the modern designed turbocharged intercooled diesel engine, and all of the efficiency that's been gained by having a 5-speed overdrive gearbox, has been utterly and completely squandered by adding a ton of weight. That's my finding of an acceleration test. A Rodeo with no solar panel, all the way to there. Rodeo with a solar panel to there. 430 metres instead of 580 metres to accelerate to 100 kilometres per hour. So for all you people who reckon you don't give 2 knobs of goat shit to the compost heap about fuel savings, and if you couldn't give a rat's ass about air pollution or global warming or greenhouse effect or any of those other things, just remember that this turbocharged intercooled fuel injected diesel accelerates 25% harder, faster, better, more efficiently, because it's got its solar panel. Beaver on the way there, even under this cold, cloudy looking sky, not connected through the ignition, but with a simple inline fuse connected directly to the battery. 25% better acceleration because it's got a SunFoil. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering about the electric solar thermal ramjet effect, there's the ram scoop air inlets under the nose. These are the boundary layer airflow control vents under the trailing edge. Out of the 275 litres of fuel it saves per year, 261 litres is saved by the electrical effect of the solar panel. 14 litres per year is saved by the aerodynamics of the fairing. Out of that 14 litres per year, 2 litres is totally due to the electric solar thermal ramjet effect. Whether you want acceleration or fuel efficiency, at a streamlined solar array to whatever you drive, I get 1 in 4 kilometres on solar saved petrol. My son's Rodeo accelerates 25% harder because of its solar panel. There you go, SunFoil update. Ciao.